What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of NFL Turf Talk. I'm your host at Scotty Drowned. As you know, Turf Talk is brought to you by DSM Media. Be sure to give myself a follow on X or Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it these days, at Scotty Drowned. You can also find DSM Media at DSM_media. As you can see, this is not our typical Sunday layout. We are missing a co-host here today. By the name of Dylan Davis. He's having some technical difficulties on his end, so I'm going to kind of man the ship per se here and keep us afloat here on this Week 13 NFL Sunday. So what we're going to do, guys, obviously try to keep up, try to stay involved via the comments. That's going to help me out a lot, knowing how you guys feel out there, how much energy you guys are bringing into this Week 13 NFL slate. But nonetheless, the way we're going to do this, Dylan already sent me his game picks. We went back and forth via text. He let me know all of his explanations behind his game picks. So I'm going to read those verbatim to you today. We're going to keep it the same way that we've been working this entire season. Let's just keep it there. We're going to make pick by pick. So we'll go back and forth. I'll obviously, announce Dylan's and we'll go back and forth like that. But nonetheless, we're going to start with a recap of Thursday Night Football. Just updating my records over the first couple weeks here between me and Dylan. Actually, last week, so in Week 12 for our picks, for our Week 12 picks, me and Dylan went Dylan went 2-3. I went 4-1, so I took Week 12. But it ultimately brings us to even on the season at 26-13 a pop. So just wanted to put that out there. Before we get into those game picks, nonetheless. That being said, we did have some Thursday night action. Might be arguably the best Thursday night game. I don't want to say the best because there were a ton of fucking penalties in that game, and it really dragged it out for that standpoint. It was just very ironic. Yeah. Hey, shout out to Dylan. Yeah, in the comments, Faithful Fanatic. Let me get some comments pulled up here. We got D-Rab chiming in, DSM Media, Week 13. That is correct. Nonetheless, though, when you're looking at this Thursday night matchup, it's ironic, right? How you leave that Buffalo game, you leave the Kansas City game, and all people can talk about with the Birds is penalties, refs, right? That's all that we hear about with the Eagles' 10-1 record is luck, penalties. We have the refs on our side. But then you get a firsthand experience on Thursday Night Football, a nationally televised game, on exactly how that is simply untrue, that refs would ever favor anyone over the Dallas Cowboys back in that 28-23 win in Philadelphia. The flags would just not stop. Now, mind you, there was a ton of penalties on both sides. Both of these teams are the highest penalized teams in the NFL. But it just seemed very convenient how Dallas got a flag in every monumental situation in that game to kind of put them ahead of the tide, right? I don't care. Dallas Cowboys won that game. They won it in close fashion. Probably their best win of the season against the Seahawks at home on Thursday. And it was a high-scoring, intense, it was a highly competitive game. So I appreciated it for that compared to the other nationally televised games that we've had to watch this season. But looking at this game, you had Geno Smith, 23 for 41 in the game, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 rushing touchdown. You had Dak Prescott, 29 for 41, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb, 12 receptions, 116 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 rushes, 30 yards. And then DK Metcalf with a monster game, 6 receptions, 134 yards, 3 touchdowns. So let me ask you this, Cowboys fans, if there's anybody in the world that's watching. If I was a Cowboys fan, I wouldn't watch this show. I'll be honest. We rip the Cowboys constantly. So it is what it is until they start playing some legitimate contending football. But if you're out there, nonetheless, Cowboys fans, is this a moral victory for the Seahawks? Is this a consolation prize for the Seahawks that Geno Smith, by the numbers, outplayed Dak Prescott? Is that is that just, Seahawks are the better team? They just had a rough go about it in Dallas, and they probably should have won that game because Geno Smith outplayed Dak Prescott, right? That's what I'm talking about. That sounds fucking stupid, right? It sounds stupid, first of all. But to be clear, that's how every single fan base outside of Philadelphia sounds every time they talk about the Eagles. So I just wanted to put that on the forefront, talking about that Thursday night game. It's really, really funny how the narratives, the agendas work around the league. But thank you, Terry, for tapping in. Happy Sunday from the number one clown fan base. According to Dylan Scott, hey, no, you're number 2 on the number one or the top clown fan bases, Terry. Let's be clear here. The Dallas Cowboys, those cockroach fair weather fans, will always be number 1. But the 49ers, the magical thing about the 49ers is that they have worked their way up this list so fast, I can't even believe it. I can't believe how much whining I've had to hear from 49ers fans over the last year. You know what I'm happy about today? Is that after this game today, regardless of the result, we can stop hearing the 49er fans bitch and moan about Brock Purdy getting injured in a game and having to leave the game. That's not the Birds' fault. It's not the Birds' problem. And it's not the Birds' goal to, compete with the 49ers and be better than them each year. The goal is to win the Super Bowl. So I'm tired of hearing from 49ers fans. I'm ready to kind of move past this game. Let's just hope it's with an Eagles dub. But no, it's all love with Terry. She's not one of those clown 49ers fans. There's a ton of them out there, but not all 49ers fans fall into that list. Goes the same across the board for any fan base. But happy Sunday, Terry. And I wish I could wish you good luck, but I would truly not mean it. Yeah. Dylan says, got to elevate your team in the big moments if he leads them past Philly next week. Yeah, I mean, Dak is in the MVP combo. Dak has played some really good football. The one conundrum is that you can still sit here and say he has not beat a team with a winning record. The Seahawks were 6-5 going into that game. They left that game 6-6. So depending on which way you look at it, that might not count as beating a winning team, a team above 500, because they are not above 500. But I don't work like that. Obviously, I try to be as fair as I can, even though as much as I hate the Dallas Cowboys and their fans, we try to be fair here. It's a good W, man. It's a good game by Dak, no turnovers. And they did what they had to do to get the win at home. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I just hope that other fan bases can kind of see me say that and then try to keep it, in perspective. Try to be non-biased when you're analyzing the Eagles. That's all I ask, but this isn't an Eagles show. So moving on, nonetheless. Before we get into picks here, obviously good W by Dallas, 41-35 at home. They win like their 14th straight home win. Or maybe it's 13 or 14 in that game. Longest streak in the NFL. Eagles are second behind there with 8 straight wins at the Link. Going into week 13, I did just want to pinpoint a few narratives that I'm looking at this week. So I have 3 narratives that I kind of pinpointed here for week 13 that I'm going to talk about here. Terry is the only 49er fan that I like. She is also part of my family. If nobody knows out there, that is my wife's mother-in-law. So just keep it cordial. But Terry's a great person, great sports fan, great sports head. If I'm being completely honest. We got some Bears fans in the family too, ironic enough. But 3 narratives that I'm looking at going into week 13, guys. I'm going to start here. Obviously, we talked a lot about the Eagles so far. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The Eagles are taking on the 49ers this week. It is the battle of the NFC. You could call it the game of the year. You can argue that maybe the Chiefs and the Eagles was the game of the year, the Super Bowl rematch. But this one is right up there, and this one is right now, and we are prisoners of the moment. So for my money, this is game of the year, the NFC Championship rematch. And you have the San Francisco 49ers visiting the Philadelphia Eagles that have won 8 straight at home, 10-1 record this season, and the 49ers are 3-point favorites. Now, mind you, the 49ers are coming off 10 days rest. They played on Thursday. They're not playing again until today at 4:25. It might actually be 10 days of rest, 10 days of rest, Thursday to Sunday. And so you look at the Eagles, they just played on Sunday evening. They're coming back 7 days later. They played 3 games in 13 days. So a lot of talk around there kind of makes the spread going San Fran's way a little more understandable is the way I would call it. But when you're looking at this game, is this a revenge game for San Fran, or is this just a barometer game for the 49ers and the Eagles? I've heard a lot of talk about it all week. There's been different perspectives. For my money, I'll put it this way. When the Eagles beat the Kansas City Chiefs a few weeks ago, that did not validate my Super Bowl loss, the Eagles' Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It did not validate it. It did not make it feel any better that the Eagles lost in the Super Bowl last year. It did not make me feel like the Eagles are the all-worldly team compared to the Chiefs. It did not make me feel as if the Eagles are the clear-cut favorites to win the Super Bowl until we knocked those Chiefs out in the Super Bowl itself. That game meant, I don't want to say it meant nothing, because it is a barometer. The Chiefs are the defending Super Bowl champions, so you beat them in Kansas City. It's a great win, but it did not make me feel better about the past. And that's my point with this game today. I don't think that this is a revenge game for the 49ers, because they can't fulfill that feeling of getting booted right before the Super Bowl in a Week 13 matchup in Philadelphia against the Eagles when nothing has been decided, right? So it's a huge game. It's arguably the biggest game of the year, but the revenge factor, I just don't see that revenge part of it. Do I think it's going to be tenacious? It's going to be a highly contested game? Yes. Do I think both of these teams want to walk out on that field and win today? Yes. Does this game mean a lot for this season? Yes. Will this turn this into a rivalry? Probably. You're going to see this team most likely again in the playoffs, whether you're the Eagles or the 49ers fans. You're going to see each other again, barring something miraculous from some other teams in the NFC. You will meet in the NFC Championship game. The only thing that this may decide is whether that NFC Championship game is in San Fran or in Philadelphia. So, nonetheless, it's not to downplay the game. This game means a lot. It's a game that I looked at this schedule. It's the game I wanted the most when I looked at this schedule. So it's not to downplay it, but just wanted to start there, address the elephant in the room. We will be back. Dylan and I will be back at 3 p.m. Eastern time this afternoon to break down Eagles pregame against the San Francisco 49ers. So we'll get into all the details and logistics of that game a little bit later. The next narrative that I'm watching going into these NFL picks is going to be the NFC South up for grabs. Last week, we had the Falcons take down the Saints. Kind of surprised Dylan and myself. We looked at the Saints as the team to beat in this division. The Falcons go ahead, take that W. That was a huge W for the Falcons moving forward. Now, this week, we got another full slate, and we still have that division fully up in the air. We have the Lions looking to bounce back against the New Orleans Saints. That is in New Orleans. You got the Detroit Lions as 4.5-point favorites there. The Saints need a win to stay in this playoff race, and that division is horrible. So maybe even if they lose, they still might be in it, quite honestly. But if you want to get ahead and get ahead of the Falcons today, you need to go out here and get this win against the Lions. But it's going to be tough. The Lions are coming off of a big loss to the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving. That was embarrassing for them. The next one, the Falcons head to the New York Jets, excuse me. Atlanta is a 2-point favorite there behind Desmond Ridder. You're going to have Desmond Ridder versus Boyle. We'll see how that plays out. I don't know really which way to go in that one. The Jets defense is serious, so it kind of makes you think maybe the Jets could pull that off. But nonetheless, big game for the Atlanta Falcons if they want to take the reins of the NFC South full throttle. And then we have the Bucks versus Panthers. Tampa Bay is a 3.5-point favorite at home against the Carolina Panthers. Right now, the Bucks, I believe, are 4-7, so they need this win more than the other two by far in order to stay in that race. But an interdivision game there in the NFC South. I'm curious, who do you guys think is going to win that division? I really don't have a good idea on who. I mean, if I still had to pick, I would pick probably the New Orleans Saints behind Derek Carr, the better quarterback in the division. But he hasn't looked great with that team, if we're being quite honest. So it's hard to make a read. I could see the Falcons. I mean, Desmond Ridder's a train wreck for my money, but they have a lot of talent around him. They can run the football, and they have a pretty sturdy defense. So between those two for me, but today may have a big impact on that nonetheless. And then the last narrative that we're looking at going into these game picks between Dylan and myself, we have AFC teams trying to stay afloat. So I have 6 games pinpointed here. We have the Cardinals visiting the Steelers. Steelers are 7-4. They're 6.5-point favorites. Obviously, Steelers got to pick up a win, stay at pace with the Ravens in that division, but also stay in the playoff hunt in the AFC. We have the Colts visiting the Titans. Indianapolis is 6-5. Indianapolis, a 1-point favorite going into this game. Denver at Houston. Both of these teams are 6-5. Houston, a 3-point favorite at home against the Broncos, who have won 5 straight. The Cleveland Browns visiting Pastor Remy. If you're tuning in out there, shout out to you, brother. Cleveland Browns visiting the LA Rams. Cleveland is 7-4. Rams are a 4-point favorite at home. Rams still fighting for playoff position as well. Kansas City at Green Bay. This game's sneaky, man. We just saw the Green Bay Packers sneak up on the Lions last week. So the Chiefs better not fall asleep against this Packers team at Lambeau Field today. First time Patrick Mahomes has ever visited Lambeau. Kansas City 6-point favorites in that one. And then we have Monday Night Football, which is the Bengals visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars. While I think the Jags should come away with this game pretty handedly, we have seen the Jags fall asleep at times. And the Bengals, while Joe Burrow's out, they're down in the dumps. You never know what that team can do with the talent that it holds outside of the quarterback position. So I did pinpoint that game as well. Jacksonville's a 9.5-point favorite in that one. You look at the AFC standings right now, the reason these games weigh so much on the weekend, Baltimore's on a bye week. They're 9-3. They're the number 1 seed in the AFC as of right now. Kansas City, 8-3 at the number 2 seed. Jacksonville, 8-3, 3 seed. Miami Dolphins, 8-3, the 4 seed. That rounds out your division winners. Then you get to the wild card. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers at 7-4 right now. The Cleveland Browns at 7-4. Then we have the Colts at 6-5. Number 8 seed, Houston, 6-5. Number 9, Denver Nuggets. Denver Broncos, NBA brain right there. Denver Broncos, 6-5. They've won 5 straight. And then we have the outside chance Buffalo Bills at number 10 seed right now, 6-6. They are on a bye week this week. So as you can see with those standings, with those records, these 6 games in the AFC have a lot of implications on how this season's going to go. But let's get into what we're here to do, and that's the game picks. As I mentioned, I went 4-1 last week in Week 12 action. Dylan went 2-3. That brought us to an even record of 23. Let me get this right. 26. That's what I said. Let me get it right. Check the notes. 26-13 on the season. We will have 5 picks each here today. So let me go ahead and mark which ones are mine here since we did this over phone. It's Dylan's. It's mine. Dylan. Mine. Cleveland, LA Rams. That's Dylan. All right. So I got these all marked down. Let's go through each game one by one. And I'm just trying to find Dylan's notes here so I can read them to you. But I got the first pick nonetheless this week, as Dylan made the first pick that last week. I actually took the Dolphins over the Commanders. Commanders are at home against the Dolphins today. You got the Dolphins coming in as 9 to 9.5 point favorites, depending on which sports book you're looking at. The interesting thing here for me today, the reason that I'm taking the Dolphins easily today against the Commanders, one, the Commanders aren't playing for much. They're not a good team, right? Not a great defense on the other side of Sam Howell there. And they just haven't been very successful this year. This is a Dolphins team that's fighting for playoff chances. The game means more for them. But not only that, you have the number 1 passing offense led by Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. You have Raheem Mostert in the backfield. That prolific passing offense is coming into DC to take on the number 30 ranked pass defense of the Washington Commanders. Trust me, I have familiarity with that 30th ranked pass defense as I've watched the Eagles run through that pass defense 2 times this season. And I expect the Miami Dolphins to do the very same thing. So I am taking the Dolphins at the 9-point spread as my first pick of this week. Moving to Dylan's first pick. I have it written down here. So Dylan's first pick is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Arizona Cardinals. You have the Cardinals visiting the Steelers in Pittsburgh. For my money, I'll put this out there. I do have the Pittsburgh Steelers on upset alert today. I think the Cardinals with Kyler Murray presents an interesting task for them. And it's going to come down to, can the Steelers score points? Can they score points at home against a dismal Arizona team? Pittsburgh Steelers are 6.5-point favorites at home against this team. Just reading Dylan's notes verbatim here. Steelers defense will feast and give Pickett short fields. So he's expecting some turnovers there from the Steelers defense. And it's a perfect opponent for this new look offense to convert yards into points. That is correct. That this new look offense, they let go of Matt Canada. So hopefully that has a positive impact like it did last week for this team. And once again, they're fighting for playoff hopes. They got to stay afloat in that AFC. It has huge AFC playoff implications. Dylan says TJ Watt with 2.5 sacks today. I love it. I actually love that. It's going to take the Steelers defense dominating the Arizona offense. They're going to have to contain Kyler Murray, obviously. But I do think they can do that. They've done it to every team they've played for the majority of this season. It's what's kept them afloat so far. So while I am putting the Pittsburgh Steelers on upset alert, I will go ahead and agree with Dylan that I would take the Steelers. I just wouldn't put my money on it. And I would be I'll keep my eye on this game to see where the score is at nonetheless. So for my next pick, I'm going to the Sunday night football game, Kansas City and Green Bay. I just went over with you the narratives, why this game has major AFC playoff implications. It also has playoff implications for the NFC, man. That division with the Lions obviously isn't the best in the NFC, but you expect the Lions to take that division, right? But you look at the Vikings, you look at the Packers right now, the Rams, the Seahawks. These are all teams that are right there on the brink of being in that NFC playoff picture. And you watch this Green Bay Packer team beat a 2-loss Detroit team in Detroit last week on national television on Thanksgiving. So I am picking Kansas City in this game. They are 6-point favorites, but I don't want Kansas City to come out and sleep on this team on the road. This is it's a trap spot for me, right? Kansas City needs wins. They need to tie the Ravens at 9-3 to stay at the number 1 seed, tied for it at least. And I'm going to trust Mahomes. I'm going to trust this Kansas City, the defending Super Bowl champions, on Sunday Night Football to come out, take care of business at Lambeau Field. But nonetheless, Mahomes facing the number 9 pass defense in the NFL. So are the Chiefs going to run the football against this Green Bay defense? I'll be interested to see how Andy Reid handles that. But I'll go with the Chiefs as my second pick here. Let's move to Dylan's second pick. So Dylan went with the Chargers over the New England Patriots here. He says this is one opponent he feels he can trust Justin Herbert to win against. New England should be tanking and starting Bailey Zapp. I actually completely agree with this one. There's not many games that I would surefire pick the Chargers in this season. But nonetheless, this is one of them, right? I do wonder going into this game, just from the Patriots side of things, can the New England offense do anything against the 32nd ranked defense in the LA Chargers? Can they do anything? Can they run the football? Can they score a few points today against this 32nd ranked LA Chargers defense? LA Chargers 5.5-point favorites. That is going to be Dylan's play there for his second pick. Nah, the Dolphins are mine, brother. I took them first. But coming in with the third pick, I'm going to take the Detroit Lions in that bounce back game in New Orleans over the New Orleans Saints. I do think this is a prime spot for the New Orleans Saints to make some noise, not only by asserting themselves in the NFC South with a huge W, getting back to 500, but also putting another loss on the Detroit Lions record and moving them further down, putting more pressure on them to stay competitive within the NFC. So I am going to go with the Detroit Lions, but this game is super interesting as far as playoff implications. But I'm taking Detroit in this bounce back spot as 4.5-point favorites over the New Orleans Saints, who just have not been able to get it going so far. Ooh, got some burps going. Oh, let's take a little intermission. I'm drinking this very disgusting monster. It's not an energy drink. It's alcohol. You see it. It's hard seltzer, 6%. It's called the Beast, Scary Berries. I mean, this, I'll be honest, I'm drinking it to drink it. The wife hasn't gotten back with some, hoping for some Arnold Palmer spiked, half and half lemonade iced teas. Hoping for those. Maybe we'll do some mimosas when she gets back. But nonetheless, these are disgusting. I'm having it for the energy. I'm bringing it for the Eagles 49ers today. I'm getting ahead of the game. But these are disgusting. This is not a promotion. I haven't had that one yet, though. I mean, that tastes like medicine. Whatever. It is kind of medicine, if we're being honest. Nonetheless, taking the Detroit Lions over the New Orleans Saints. And mimosas. That is the vibe tomorrow morning. Mimosas for the win against the 49ers. Coming in with Dylan's third pick. This is where he actually thought he could take the Miami Dolphins versus the Commanders. He didn't realize that I had already taken them. So he then went with his second pick for the third pick, and he went with the Jets over the Atlanta Falcons. This is one of those games I pinpointed for the NFC South. You look at this game, Atlanta coming in at 2-point favorites. Interesting. I don't know if they deserve to be favorites going on the road against this Jets defense. Now, I understand 4-7 Jets team. They're not supposed to be in the running for anything. What are they trying to win for? You just had Aaron Rodgers activated, his practice window, right? The activated to come back from IR, right? That 21-day window. Don't know why. It's not really worth it, but to me, that tells me the Jets are going to continue to compete. They're going to continue to try to iron out the details with this team, figure out who needs to be here for next year and who they need to improve on. I get it. I really do. Dylan's reasoning behind this one. Boyle, baby. He's taking Boyle. And notice how I don't say Boyle's first name because I don't know it, and I don't care to because I'm not going to hear about him after this season. But he is rolling with Boyle, baby. He says Desmond Ridder will not beat that defense in New York. He said he doesn't give a fuck if it's Tim Boyle. There's his first name. He knows his first name. He knows a little bit more about the Boyle factor there than I do. He is going with the Jets at home against the Falcons. I think that's more than fair. I don't really know where I would lay my money here. I'll ride with Dylan on this one because this is a shit show to me. You talk about the mediocre quarterback play, the mediocre quarterback matchup. But you look at the two great running games going at each other, two great defenses going at each other. Well, I'll slow down on Atlanta. Great defense. They have a very good defense that can pair with the rushing attack, but I wouldn't call them great just yet. Big game for Atlanta, though, right? Playoff implications for that NFC South. Who the hell wants to win that division? That's the biggest question on God's green earth right now. But the next one that I am going to go with, my fourth pick in week 13, is going to be an upset. This might surprise people. It might not. I don't know. I'm curious how the public views this game compared to the sports books. But you have the Denver Broncos traveling to Houston to take on the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud and that Houston Texans team coming off a huge loss where they could have taken a big grasp of this division, the AFC South. They could have taken a big grasp of this division by beating the Jacksonville Jaguars last week. They weren't able to come down with it. But now they're 6-5. They're taking on another 6-5 team that they're competing with directly for a wild card spot in the AFC. And my question for this game, who's the real team here, right? You have the Denver Broncos, who have won 5 straight games. It feels like that defense has turned it on. Russell Wilson is playing some decent football, right? Winning football. They've won 5 straight, but they're visiting the Houston Texans, a team admittedly surprised me a lot. CJ Stroud surprised me a lot, but had worked himself into MVP conversations midway through this season with how good his play has been. He has brought the likes of Tank Dell and Nico Collins to the forefront of the fantasy world, getting them solid production week in, week out. You have Devin Singletary, Damian Pierce in that backfield. You have DeMeco Ryans at the head coaching spot. The defense has a ton of young talent on it that can make plays. It's not the sturdiest or the stablest, but they can make plays on defense. I'm going to go with the veteran in this one. I know he's on the road. I know it's the Broncos. They started this season horribly, but they're playing some of the best football in the NFL right now. They got a huge dub against the Cleveland Browns. They were able to move the ball enough to beat that team. I'm going with the Broncos on the road against the Houston Texans. I think that Denver defense gets after CJ Stroud. It makes it really tough on him today. I think it'll be a competitive game, but I'm going with the Broncos on the road. Russell Wilson's veteran leadership coming through there on the road. Yeah, CJ, I completely agree, Terry. And knowing Terry, this is what I meant earlier when I say she is an immaculate sports head. She probably knew this coming into this season that CJ Stroud was going to be a stud in the NFL. I'll admittedly say I did not know. Between him, Bryce Young, it's such a gamble picking these guys before they actually get to the league and you see them against professional competition. But this kid, he is the truth. He's the real deal. And it's going to be exciting not only to watch him grow over the next few seasons and over his career, but also the Houston Texans. Watching them grow. I mentioned Nico Collins, Tank Dell. These are very young guys. They added Dalton Schultz from the Cowboys at tight end. Another guy kind of, in that 25, 26-year-old range that should be hitting kind of the peak of his career as a tight end. So that Texans team, DeMeco Ryans, great leader. We saw the way that San Fran defense was under him. And he's brought that culture right on over to the Houston Texans to come out and compete each and every week. But I am going to go with the Broncos today. I'll go with the veterans and the leadership there and that side of things. Next pick, Dylan is going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's staying in that NFC South, except this time you have to pick one of the NFC South teams. He went with the Buccaneers at home in this one against the Panthers. Bucs are 3.5-point favorites against the Panthers in this one. We know the Panthers are not going anywhere fast. And the saddest part is that they don't even have their first round pick. So it's like, yeah, should they tank? I guess for their, second pick and down, but them tanking in only winning one game this season, trying to get a number 1 pick, that's only benefiting the Chicago Bears. So it's hard to measure how much the Panthers will come out and compete each and every week. They did just fire Frank Reich. So usually when you see a head coach firing an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, you see a very inspired team for their next leader. Don't know if that's the case. Don't know if the Panthers are good enough for that this week. But the Bucs haven't been great themselves, right? But I do think you look at the Bucs, they're still fighting for that division. Even though 4-7, the next best team is 5-6. So they are still rightfully fighting for that division. I'll take the Bucs at home as well against a bad Carolina team. Dylan said, give him the Bucs over the Panthers at home. Bucs still have a chance for division versus a dead Panthers team. He thinks Bryce Young struggles on the road versus a decent defense. Yeah, that's exactly what I just said here, and that's more than enough reason for me to agree with Dylan there. But Dylan goes with the Bucs as his 4th pick on the day. My final pick on the day, my 5th and final pick, is going to be the Colts over the Titans. You have the Indianapolis Colts. Shout out to my boy Mark. If you're out there watching, my brother, go Colts today. I am picking the Colts at Tennessee. The crazy thing here, the interesting thing to watch with this game, obviously the Colts behind Gardner Minshew, they're 1-point favorites in this game on the road. Haven't taken them serious for a little while this season, right? But maybe it's time to. They're 6-5. They have, one of the easier schedules the rest of the way. They're in the AFC. They're 65. They're over 500. They're in the playoff picture as of right now. They are the last wild card team in. That gives you something to play for. I don't know what the Titans are playing for right now, but it makes this interesting. It's ultimately why I am going with the Colts. But the reason I do say it's interesting from the Titans' perspective, Tennessee Titans this season are 4-1 at home. They're 0-6 on the road. So they are what? 4-7 this season. 6 of those losses have came on the road. They've only had one loss at home this season against a Colts team that, as good as Gardner Minshew is playing, as many games as he's winning, he's not their starter for a reason. I'll be interested to see how this game goes with the Titans at home, but I'm going with the Colts as my 5th and final pick here. For Dylan's 5th and final pick, we only have one game left. Precursor, we leave the Eagles 49ers out. We're doing Eagles pregame left later today at 3 p.m. So you want to see who we pick in that game, tune in. It'll be on the DSM Media Philadelphia channel, part of the DSM Media family. But Dylan's final pick, it's the only game left on this Sunday slate. It's going to be the Browns at the LA Rams. In this game, you have the Rams as 4-point favorites. You have Joe Flacco getting his first start of the season for the Browns. Joe Flacco does have a little bit of familiarity with the Browns and running their system. He's played with them before in recent years. So that's interesting. Can Joe Flacco be better than DTR? That's all we're asking. Can he be better than DTR? Can he be better than PJ Walker? Because he's working with one of, if not the best defense in the NFL, in the Cleveland Browns defense. Dylan says he's going with the Browns as underdogs on the road over the Rams. Important to note for the Rams, they are back in that playoff picture right now. With that Seahawks loss to the Cowboys, the Rams can tie the Seahawks as far as record going into next week with a win today over the Browns. Dylan says the Browns defense will pressure Stafford all day. If the offense can score 23 points against the Rams defense, they will win this game. I like the points there. I would probably go with the Browns myself, at least with the points, with the Rams being 4-point favorites. Think this is going to be a close one. Both teams fighting for their playoff chances. But I will take the sturdy defense, one of the best defenses in the NFL on the road, over the LA Rams, who have been up and down this season, to say the least. But they are a lot healthier. They got Kyron Williams back. I'm not sure. I believe Cooper Kupp should be back in this one. Matthew Stafford should be good to go. So Rams a lot healthier than they have been at times this season. Nonetheless, Dylan is going with the Browns upset over the Rams in LA. Guys, that is the game picks for the Week 13 10-game slate. Minus the Eagles 49ers game. As I mentioned earlier, we will be hosting, Dylan and myself, Eagles pregame live, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Eagles versus 49ers. Preview that matchup. Once again, Dylan and I, 26-13, tied right now in the season for game picks. We got 5 games each this week. Just to go over them one more time for you, I have the Dolphins over the Commanders. I have the Kansas City Chiefs over the Green Bay Packers. I have the Detroit Lions over the New Orleans Saints. I have the Denver Broncos over the Houston Texans. And I have the Indianapolis Colts over the Tennessee Titans. On Dylan's side, he has the LA Chargers over the Patriots. He has the Steelers over the Cardinals at home. He has the Browns over the Rams. And then the Buccaneers over the Panthers, and the New York Jets over the Atlanta Falcons. Nonetheless, that is going to be it for this episode of Turf Talk, guys. Hopefully next week we'll be back with the two host tandem like we normally do on our shows each week. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for all the comments here. Garrett will get to Stafford. Garrett had a shoulder situation earlier, but seems to be okay. That's good. Good news for Dylan's pick there. And yes, I imagine Myles Garrett will terrorize Matthew Stafford just like he does every single other quarterback in the NFL that he goes against. But once again, thank you, Terry. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Darius. And thank you, everyone that tuned in to the show today. Appreciate it as always. Hit that subscribe button. Like the video. No, Terry, you don't get away with that. It's go Birds, but respect, Terry. Good luck today. Hopefully it's a good game. Both teams stay healthy. Tap back in with us, Terry, on the DSM Media Philadelphia channel. If you want to talk 49ers Eagles with us at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Guys, be sure to hit the subscribe button, like the video, follow DSM Media on Twitter at DSM_media. That is it for myself. You can find me at Scotty Drown. Have a great rest of your Sunday, everybody, and enjoy the NFL slate. We'll see you again